And now I would like to ask our next speaker, Mrs. Gabriele Kuby, about her thoughts of the notion of women's rights and how it is used to manipulate the society today. Because as I told you on the beginning, Gabriele Kuby is one of the most known authors on gender and sexual revolution that also exposed in her book threats connected to this radical terms. Thank you so much.
I'm very happy to be able to be on this panel. And I thank the speakers before me for their very deep and enlightening thoughts. When I prepared my contribution, I had in front of my mind the thousands and thousands of women in beloved Poland, Catholic Poland, that are on the streets to demand the right to abort the child that is growing in their womb. And they go into violent means, they demolish churches and statues. And these are women who think they are fighting for something good. So I'm really speaking to them, and I hope they are listening to this conference to rethink of what it is to be a woman. We are in the middle of a global war. This is a war between the culture of death and the culture of life. It is a war between Marxist atheists who want to establish equality and of believers in God who want to establish justice. It is a war between those who will establish a totalitarian dictatorship by manipulation of mass consciousness, the jettison of law, and the use of violence, and those who believe in the power of nature, reason, and God, and therefore fight for freedom and justice. They know that God, nature, and reason will win this war. Presently in Europe, the front of this battle is in Poland. We see that one nation after the other is falling away from God at an amazing pace. Spain, Italy, Ireland, Malta, just to name a few nations that have been deeply Catholic for centuries until very recently. Will Poland go down this road too? A nation that was able to withstand Nazi terror and communist dictatorship by the power of Catholic faith? All these once Catholic nations made incredible contributions to the culture of man in art, architecture, music, theology, literature, the establishment of justice through law, the moral foundation of society as the basis of the family. These nations now fall to the eternal temptation of the snake in the Garden of Eden. No, you will not die. You will be like God. But the snake is lying. First of all, we all will die. Also those who vandalize churches and destroy statues of the Mother of God, they too will die. It is not certain that your ashes will be recycled in a tree. You too have an eternal soul. Millions of unborn children die because their mothers and fathers want to have sex without being ready to become parents. They prefer to kill the child, and they fight for the right to kill the child at any stage of pregnancy, as the new president of the United States does. Dear sisters in Poland, maybe some of you only fight for the right to kill an unborn child that has a fatal abnormality. It also is a human being with dignity and the right to life. We do not want to have a society where only the healthy have a right to life and the sick are killed in whatever stage of their life. You may think you cannot bear the thought that you might have to care, let us say, for a Down syndrome child. You believe your life would be ruined. No doubt it is hard to accept such a fate. Parents of children with special needs should be highly respected and get every kind of help from the social environment and the state. The radical feminists in Poland and around the world fight for more. They fight for a human right to abortion. Dear women, are you aware of what you are demanding? After the horrors and atrocities of World War II, the nations came to a mutual consent that there are rights which every human being enjoys, simply because she or he is a human being with dignity. Of course, the protection of the right to life is the condition of any other human right. Is it really a human right that some humans have the right to kill other humans? You started your life as an embryo, so did I. Were we anything else than a human being in the womb of our mother, who allowed us to grow within her womb until she gave birth to you and to me? Yes, there can be conditions where it is very hard to bear the life-giving consequences of a sexual act. That is the life of another human being. But in order to avoid this consequence, do you really want to kill your child? We casually use the word abortion and count the numbers by the thousands or hundreds thousands or the millions. Around 50 million children are killed every year around the globe before they are born. If you see yourself in a situation where the death of your child seems the only way out, you will have to choose between different methods of killing the baby. So it is good to know what they are. I will speak about 7 methods of killing the unborn child in some detail. Menstrual extraction. The suction method at the early stages of pregnancy is a risky do-it-yourself method used where abortion is forbidden by law. The International Planned Parenthood Federation distributes such handy suction devices in countries with high birth rates and delivers plans for making them oneself. If the woman fears she is pregnant, this device is used to suck away the uterine lining. The risk to women is very high, from a punctured uterus or an infection to an incomplete abortion. Number 2, curettage. This is the method of choice up to the 12th week of pregnancy. The baby, you can see it in the ultrasound sound examination, has a beating heart, little hands with fingernails, a fast developing brain, male or female sex organs. The uterus is dilated and a curette with a sharp tip is inserted into the cervix. The baby is cut up with this blade and the uterus is scraped out. The abortionist or assisting nurse must check whether all body parts of the baby are present in the bloody mass. Because if anything is left in the uterus, serious complications can follow. Number 3, the suction method. A suction tube is inserted into the uterus and connected to a vacuum device that cuts the baby's body into pieces and sucks it up. Then the uterus is scraped out. Here also, the cut up body parts must then be checked for completeness. From the 4th to the 6th month of pregnancy, this process gets more difficult. The baby's tissue is now stiff enough that it can't be cut up. The cervix has to be spread wider because larger instruments must be inserted. The baby's arms and legs are cut off with a long, curved pair of scissors and are pulled out individually. The abortionist waits until the child has bled to death and then removes the torso. With larger babies, the head must be crushed so that it can be pulled from the cervix in pieces. Saline abortions. This method is used from the second trimester to the start of the third trimester. The risks for the mother are very high because the salt solution can get into one of the mother's blood vessels. About 200 milliliters of amniotic fluid is sucked out and replaced with salt solution. The baby swallows and inhales this solution. Over hours, it suffers an agonizing death through salt poisoning, dehydration, brain bleeds, and cramps. Within 24 to 48 hours, the baby is born through induced contractions, the dead baby, of course. The child is deep red. Mothers report that they can feel the baby's wild movements during its hours-long battle with death. Abortion with Rivanol disinfectant. The disinfectant Rivanol contains alcohol and is injected through the abdominal wall to mix with the amniotic fluid. Rivanol penetrates the tender, unprotected skin of the child in the uterus and destroys the cells. The high percentage of alcohol is very poisonous to the child, stops the heart relatively quickly, and triggers contractions. The result is the stillbirth of a yellow-colored child. Fetal homicide. Thank you, Madame Del Sol, for saying all this is homicide and not only a child born, taken to term. The child is murdered with an injection of poison to the heart. Viewing the baby through ultrasound, the abortionist sticks a long needle through the mother's abdominal wall, seeks out the child's heart, inserts the needle, and injects a potassium chloride solution into the heart. The poison prevents muscle contraction, causing the heart to stop. The dead child is delivered by cervical dilation and expulsion using hormone injections. This method is used with in vitro fertilization if more than one fertilized egg has been implanted and multiple births must be prevented. And last, the chemical abortion using the pill RU486 mifepristone. Swallowing pills seems less brutal than surgical methods. RU486 can be taken until the end of the second month of pregnancy. An extremely high dose of the synthetic hormone RU486 blocks the hormone progesterone required for pregnancy. The uterus recedes, which strangles the child to death. The uterine lining dies and the child is expelled. The child's agony lasts many hours, during which it slowly dies of hunger, thirst, and suffocation. There's a discharge, and the fetus usually ends up in the toilet. Thrombosis, embolism, breast cancer, impaired fertility, heavy bleeding, heart attack, and cardiac arrhythmia can all result from a chemical abortion. Depression, sadness, broken relationships, unknown physical pains, infertility, a deep-rooted feeling of guilt may be the consequence of any abortion. It is called the post-abortion syndrome, but doctors who earn money by killing thousands of babies will not tell you about it. All this happens in a society that believes it is the height of humanism. Are we really? It is in reality a drop back into the most brutal barbarism we can think of. Dear sisters who fight for the right to kill your child, is this really what you want? I'm sure you don't. You just can't see a child in your life. But let me tell you, as a mother of 3 children and a mother of 3 grandchildren, life itself is extremely powerful. A living baby, tiny and helpless as it is, will find a place on this earth to exist together with you, his or her mother. Your baby will love you unconditionally as you are and as nobody else can love you. Countless women who resisted the temptation of ending the life of their baby give witness for the deep thankfulness that they did not fall into that trap, for the joy that their child gives them for a meaningful life. Is there anything more touching than the smile of a baby? The innocence, the pureness, the beauty, the soul that looks out of their eyes? Even if it was difficult to accept the pregnancy, even if the birth was painful, as it usually is, mother and baby are flooded with the hormone oxytocin, the hormone that gives happiness and creates bonding. When a child receives what it needs, it delights those around him with its smile, its untamed joy of life, its creativity, the light in its eyes, the laughter, the radiance of its sleeping face, its complete non-judgmental acceptance of mother and father and the whole world as it is. Parents witness the miracle of its awakening intelligence. The family rejoices in the words a child creates, the creativity of a free spirit, the declarations of love, of the pure heart of a child. When the mother's heart is near to the child, then the world is new to her as well. No one accepts you as completely as your own child. This will be a path for your own healing. A child will bond you to life itself. It will bond you to the future. The love you give a child now will come back to you once you need the love and caring of your children. We all want to make the world a better place. We do not make it a better place by killing unborn children. If you accept your child with your heart, give your loving motherly care to your child, if you're willing to make sacrifices for the well-being of your child, as every mother and father does, it might well be that your child will make the world a better place. Joy and deep satisfaction by fulfilling your motherhood as long as it is needed will be the reward. You will not face gruesome loneliness when you are old. Dear sisters in Poland, we need you. We need your yes to life, your yes to the culture of life, your yes to the family, your yes to children, your yes to God. Keep up the wonderful example Poland has been to the world by resisting ideologies and their deadly consequences with the power of faith. You have done it before. You can do it now. Thank you very much.